Now, it's especially important to understand everything encompassed in what he has just said there. In saying the qualities spoken of, Aristotle is referring back to what was said a moment ago about the decent person, namely, that the decent person is like-minded, homonoio, literally one mind, with himself, and longs for, and the Greek verb there is orego, which means to stretch oneself out, to reach towards, the same things with his whole soul. And remember, the whole soul is the most authoritative aspect of soul, namely mind or intellect, nous, and all the passions of the soul. What Aristotle means is that the most authoritative part of the soul, namely mind or nous, which is that through which we hope or wish for things, and the passions of the soul both long for the same things. In other words, mind and the passions are in conjunction, in harmony, in what it is that mind longs for, and the passions, which is to say the appetites, desire. And here we get to see the great subtlety in Aristotle's thought, because the analysis that Aristotle provides hinges upon two different verbs that often get conflated into the single verb in English of desire. What we're going to see is that the difference between the two verbs that Aristotle uses corresponds exactly to the difference between man and all of the other creatures. And the reason that this is so important is that it's a commentary on something that Aristotle had said much earlier, and that I will get into later in this discussion because it's extremely important for Heidegger's understanding of Aristotle. But it's a commentary of what Aristotle says in Book 6 at around 1139 B4. And there he's talking about human choice. And this is what he says. Acting well, and the Greek word there is eupraxia, where the eu prefix means well or good, and praxia is the word we've seen already as praxis. Eupraxia literally means well or good actions. But continuing, acting well is an end, a telos, and one's longing, and the Greek word Aristotle uses there is orego. In our souls, we long to act well as an end in itself, orego, or longing, orego, marked by thinking. And the word being translated there as thinking comes from the Greek word dianoia, so it contains in it nous, and the prefix dia just means through, so through nous. And he finishes there by saying the starting point, the Greek word there is arche, and so it could also be translated as a source or a principle of this kind, is a human being. And so what Aristotle has just told us there is that the source or the principle of the human being is the soul that is characterized by either mind, which has longing, or by longing, which has mind. And the or right there means that it's both, namely, mind that longs, nous with orego, and or longing through noia. And like I said, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this in the Heidegger section of the discussion. But the reason that's so important here is that Aristotle has just said that what characterizes people who are not decent is that they differ with themselves. In other words, they are not of like mind, homonoia, but in fact, what they wish for or what they hope for, in other words, the longing of the mind, is aimed or directed towards one particular kind of good, while the passions of their souls, their desire, not orego, are aimed elsewhere, which is to say that their desires, their epithumia, are not in accord, they're not in harmony with the desiring, the orego of their mind. And so this disharmony within their soul, which can in no way be said to be any kind of ordered cosmos, and it means that their choices could very well disqualify them from being, as he's just said about choice, the starting point or the principle, the source of a human being. What is being said is that there are men among us who do not properly live as men, while they mistakenly believe that they are in fact men, but they are living like animals.